Good evening, everyone. My name is Cliff Kahili. I'm the city manager for the city of Mesquite, and I want to thank you for joining us today for our Community Health Forum. This is an ongoing series of Zoom meetings that we're having with the community to discuss different topics related to COVID-19, to nutrition, to health, to mental health. And so we appreciate the time tonight. This is National Nutrition Month and through the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And so we thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about nutrition in the community. And joining me tonight are some people who are well versed in the topic of nutrition and have been very involved in our COVID-19 response and just making sure that our kids in our community and our seniors have been taken care of during the pandemic. So I'm proud to be a part of this panel tonight. So we're going to kind of go around the Zoom real quick. So if y'all don't mind just introducing yourselves and who you're with and a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into some questions. So Lark, we'll start with you.
Sure. My name is Lark Stewart. I'm the Director of Food Nutrition Services at Mesquite ISD. We have about 50 schools, and we normally feed about 8 million meals a year. That was pre-COVID. Our numbers have gone down just a bit since then, but we're really excited to work with our community and our student body to get the nutrition that they need every day.
Diana?
Hi, everyone. My name is Diana. I am a dietetic intern at Texas Health Dallas Presbyterian. I obtained my bachelor's in nutrition at UT Austin, and then I also obtained my master's at Texas Women's University. And yeah, I'm glad to be here tonight with everyone.
Great. Talli?
Hey, everybody. My name's Talli Zuckerman, and like Diana said, I'm also an intern with her at Texas Presbyterian Hospital, Dallas. And I have my bachelor's in foods and nutrition from San Diego State University. And I've worked in a few different hospitals as a diet technician. And now I'm a few months away from being a registered dietitian.
Great. And Pam?
I'm Pam Folsom. I'm the Senior Recreation Supervisor with the senior programs here in Mesquite. I coordinate 3 senior programs, and we serve a congregate meal service out of 2 of those.
Well, again, thank you for being part of the webinar tonight. And so I think we'll go ahead and just kind of jump into some of the topics. So Lark, with the pandemic and all of that, tell us a little bit about what some of the challenges that y'all faced early on in the COVID-19 response.
Sure. So working with schools during the pandemic, we really had to shift gears on a dime. We completely changed our service model when COVID hit a year ago. We had a full service menu in each school, but we had to pivot and go to what's called curbside meals. So we were able to package 10 meals into one kit and then send those home with families and for them to be able to get nutrition for their kiddos.
And it was a pretty substantial feat, and I just want to compliment you and MISD for doing what y'all did on the spur of the moment without any sort of plans or history. It was a phenomenal effort, and I think just as a parent, I was really proud of what MISD was able to do. So thanks for your leadership there. So as part of your job is trying to ensure our kids eat healthy at school and different programs that you provide. So I think it's a challenge with kids, and how do families ensure that their children are receiving adequate nutrition?
Sure. So one of the main things that families can do is to take advantage of school meals. All schools participating in the National School Lunch Program have very strict nutrition guidelines. And those nutrition guidelines focus on providing fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and appropriate fat and sodium levels. So for example, even pizza at school is 50% whole grain and contains reduced fat cheese for a healthier option versus traditional pizza. All public schools here in Mesquite, they serve both breakfast and lunch. And we serve those in the school for those kiddos who are attending in person. And then we've been able to continue our curbside pickup for those kiddos who are learning virtually. Another great thing that you can do to make sure your child has adequate nutrition is to offer your child breakfast daily. Eating breakfast kickstarts their metabolism, and it can help with behavior, and it can help a lot with learning. I know when I skip breakfast, I'm certainly not performing at my best, and kids are the same way as the rest of us.
Well, I think that's definitely a good way to try to instill, healthy habits. I think, being a parent and trying to get kids to, eat when they need to is a challenge. So, but you kind of also get into picky eaters. So what do you recommend when you have a child that's a picky eater?
This can be so frustrating for many parents, but one of the most important things is just to remain patient. So when you're trying new foods, sometimes it's easier to allow your child to actually touch and smell them and ask them questions more about like color and the shape and the texture, or maybe the way it smells, and not focus so much on whether it tastes good or bad. Another tip that you can do is to recruit the child's help. So maybe take your child to the grocery store, or if you're still using an online app for grocery delivery or pickup, then you could scroll through that and find maybe a new fresh fruit or vegetable that they'd like to try. And by involving them in it, sometimes they're more likely to try something new rather than it just being placed in front of them for the very first time. You can also have them help prepare dinner. Sometimes getting them involved in the preparation of dinner helps them warm up to that idea of trying something new, or even if it's something that they've seen multiple times, just being around it, touching it, feeling it, adds a whole new experience. And if you have really young children, sometimes prepping dinner isn't always the safest option, but what you can do is have them help in maybe washing some produce. An issue that I see some parents, they might offer dessert as a reward, or they might say you can't have dessert as a punishment, maybe because they didn't finish their meal. But this actually sends a really confusing message, because it's saying that dessert is the best food, and it can actually increase your child's desire to eat more sweets. But like I said, the most important thing is to just remain patient. Their taste buds are changing, and many children are actually sensitive to the bitter taste that a lot of adults can't taste. It can even take up to 30 times for a child to try something before they're willing to accept it a second time.
Well, yeah, that's a big challenge, and that's some good tips on introduction. So you have, thousands of picky eaters that you provide food for on a daily basis. So have you found any foods that, kind of surprised you that you've introduced that are healthy, but that kids really adopted at school?
Not traditionally. I would say maybe more in the aspect of if we do what's called Harvest of the Month. We haven't been able to participate in that this year, but in the past, we have brought in fresh fruits and vegetables for the kiddos to try, and we'll sample it, or we'll put it on the menu, and so they can have it as part of their meal. And so maybe a lot of our kids have never seen some fruits that you might think is common. So for example, we introduced pears a while back. This was last year. And we found that some kids they didn't know what a pear was. They didn't know it was different than an apple. And so just having that conversation with them and cutting it open for them and showing them what it looks like on the inside, you see a lot of big eyes and a lot of inspiration.
I think tapping into kids' curiosity can help as well. So that's really good point. So one of the challenges that parents face is really just trying to understand what is truly a nutritious meal. So you go and you look at the nutrition labels. So what are some of your tips on looking at the nutrition labels for different types of foods that are out there?
Sure. Do you think I'd be able to share my screen so I could show them? as
Absolutely, yeah.
well? Okay, let me see if I can do that. Give me 1 second. Okay, are you guys able to see the nutrition facts label?
We are.
Awesome. Okay. So there's 4 major sections to the nutrition facts label. And don't get me wrong, this can be super confusing. So if this is a struggle for you, you are not alone. So we'll go over each section just in general. And if you have more questions, there's a lot of resources out there on the internet. So just Google it. You'll find help. But the first section is the serving information. And the serving information is actually set by the USDA. It's not set by the manufacturer. So for example, we're looking at a frozen lasagna and it contains 4 servings, but the package may actually be small enough for someone to consume the entire package in one sitting. So it can be very confusing for the consumer as to what is the expectation of what a real serving size is. So really look at that. A cup of lasagna is really only, this much. It's not very much food. And so most people would probably eat at least 2 cups. So that's something you need to consider when you're looking at the label versus what the actual package is. The second section is for calories. So this is the energy that this food provides for you. So 1 serving of this, which most people might eat 2, is 280 calories. That's not incredibly high for a 2,000 calorie diet for a day. So that may be a reasonable amount. The next section is nutrients, and this contains macronutrients and micronutrients. So macronutrients are like the big ones, like fat, carbohydrates, protein. But the micronutrients are the vitamins and minerals, or the sodium or cholesterol. So that can all be confusing. It's a lot of big terms. If you're going down the nutrients and you're seeing everything listed, so for example, total fat here is 9 grams, but that may not be very helpful to the average consumer, because do you know how many grams of fat you're supposed to eat in a day? Probably not. So what they did is they added the next section, which is section number 4, called the percent daily value. And this gives you a quick guide to how much is in it. So for example, if you had 1 serving of this lasagna, it will contain 9 grams of fat. But if you look over to your right, it says 12%. So this means that if you have 1 cup of this for 1 serving, you've consumed 12% of the recommended amount of fat per day. So if you jump down to sodium, this becomes a little bit more relevant. So it's 850 milligrams of sodium, which is 37% of the daily amount you're supposed to get. Well, let's say you're hungry and you went ahead and ate 2 servings. So now you've consumed over 70% of the sodium that you're supposed to have in a day. So that's why these percentages are here, because it's a really quick tool for you to add up in your head, how much am I eating? How much am I supposed to eat? And so you can use that. There's a lot more in-depth information on how to read that, but that's the quick and dirty version. If you want more information, check on FDA.gov. They have a lot of fabulous resources on how to read this and get more information from just a quick look at a box.
Well, I think that's understanding the labels it is a challenge, and so using your example, so this is apparently a fairly small package of lasagna, and if you eat the whole thing, then you've gone over your percentage of sodium quite a bit. So
absolutely,
that's.
I'm trying to figure out how to unshare my screen.
I think if you'll go to the top, it may be if you've got multiple screens, it can. Oh, here.
Did it do it? Oh, there we go. Stop share. Okay.
There you go. All right. Well, so you're reading there in the store, you're reading the package, you're looking at that. So how do you know if a food is truly healthy? Because there are some things that are kind of hidden on those labels.
Oh yeah, so this is actually a really tricky question to answer because there's not this end all list of black and white answers as to what is healthy and what is not healthy. So I think most people know that consuming large amounts of sodas or sweets or white breads is not part of a healthy diet. So the things you should really focus on eating more of are things like fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. And whole grains can be a little deceiving because not everyone knows what consists of a whole grain. So some examples might be brown rice. White rice would not be considered a whole grain. Things like maybe quinoa or whole grain bread would be other examples. Most Americans already consume plenty of protein, so most people don't need to focus on getting more protein, but they should rather focus on fresh items like fruits and vegetables. Meats, on the other hand, most people consider chicken, turkey, and fish as healthier meats versus red meats due to their lower content of fat and cholesterol versus the red meats. But all these items can really fit into a healthy lifestyle. Another kind of popular mindset that's been going around lately is if you look at the ingredients on a package and there's more than, 5 to 10, and there's like things that there's no way you're ever going to be able to pronounce it, that means it's very refined. And so we're getting away from nature's product, and it's generally thought of to be healthier the closer you are to the natural product.
Well, I think that kind of segues into kind of my last question here. So many of us are ingrained in our habits and even bad habits that we've developed over the years. So any suggestions on kind of changing your diet towards a kind of a healthier path?
Sure. So my biggest pro tip for either trying to lose weight or trying to change your diet is to plan ahead. You may have really good intentions, and let's say you had a really robust salad for lunch and you're really excited about it, but come 3 o'clock, you are starving. And so you grab that candy bar because lunch didn't carry you over. It's so much easier to make a good decision if you have a healthy snack available. That way, when your cravings kick in, you have an alternative. It actually takes a lot of willpower to overcome cravings when you're already hungry. And you may find yourself reaching for something that's easy rather than something that's healthy if you didn't plan ahead. The reason this actually happens is because when you're hungry, your brain goes into survival mode. And it actually focuses on fulfilling that need for calories. It tells you to grab the high calorie item. So if you can recognize that this is hardwired into our human DNA, it actually makes it easier to overcome. So what I recommend is that when you find yourself reaching for that item that you know is not the best for you, take an extra moment. It just takes a moment to ask yourself, do you really want that candy bar because you need it? Or do you want it because it's the easiest thing to fulfill your brain's need? So if you can mentally recognize this, and in addition, you had already planned ahead by having a healthy option on hand, you're much more likely to make the healthy choice. And a quick example of some healthy options to keep at your desk might be, bring some pre-portioned fruits and vegetables, or have a packet of nuts, or maybe some little mini packs of hummus and carrots or low-fat cheese. I actually keep 100-calorie packs of nuts and dried cranberries in my desk because I have days where my stress overrides my willpower. And so I find myself reaching for the candy bowl on somebody else's desk rather than choosing something healthy. And so it's hard for everybody, even as dietitians. So don't think your struggle is alone, but if you can recognize that your brain is actually hardwired to consume the high calorie item rather than make the healthy choice when you're hungry, it's so much easier to make a better decision.
Well, thank you for that, because that was going to be my last question, was kind of what's your go-to snack to get you through those cravings, or when your body's telling you to to go for the sweet stuff. So
For sure. I always keep an apple on my desk and some nuts or nuts in my drawer. So that way I have some options. And if I'm feeling something sweet, I can have some fruit. If I'm feeling something salty, I can have some nuts.
great. So, well, Lark, thank you. And if you'll stick around for maybe some questions at the end, we'll kind of move on to our next group. And Talli and Diana are interns with the Visiting Nurses Association. And so they've got a little bit of a direction on the senior nutrition. And so we wanted to kind of ask them a few of the questions and on things. And I teased them before the webinar that I was going to give one of them the hard questions. So I'm just going to randomly pick. So first one is up is Talli. So Talli, we've got seniors who, especially in Mesquite, are on a limited budget or a fixed income. So any advice that you can share on how to shop for groceries on a budget?
Yeah, so, as an intern, I'm on a limited budget too. So, I also do these things, and I can tell you they really do work, and it does help when you're trying to, cut some costs. So the first thing is you don't need to shop at, a specialty grocery store. So like a Sprouts or a Whole Foods or something. It doesn't need to be anything like that. Like a Walmart is fine, like a dollar store, anything like that is fine. And then going along with that, like your foods don't need to be organic. They don't need to be brand name. They don't make them any more nutritious than an off-brand product or a non-organic product. And, the organic brand names, those are more expensive. So, and there's no more nutrition value, like I said. And then another helpful tool is, like we discussed earlier, is planning ahead. So if you are like, okay, these are my meals for the week, I have my list, you go in, you know exactly what you need, you get out, and you're not like walking around the store like, what looks good? What else can I add? Or, or if you're going in hungry too, you'll probably gravitate to some more snacks and things like that. So if you are, physically going into the store, make sure you're not hungry, because that will help too. And then my last big tip is, which a lot of people are doing today, especially with COVID, is using an app to order your food. So I know a lot of grocery stores like Walmart, Target, Tom Thumb, they're all doing this now. So I like this for cost because you can actually much easier compare all the prices of products because they're laid out right there on an app for you. So it's much easier to compare prices of different products. And that way, and then once you get to the end of the checkout and you can see your cart, you can look at it and go, whoa, this product was super expensive. I probably didn't need that. You can make some edits. It's a lot easier than, going all the way back through the grocery store. So those are just some helpful tips. Biggest thing is planning ahead. That's probably the number one way of just knowing what you need and not straying from your list. Yeah.
I think the best tip in there was to not go to the store hungry, because they don't always make the best choices.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So Diana, tell us a little bit about kind of some of the challenges seniors face. Some of them, many people have chronic health issues or some underlying health conditions. So what are some of the nutrition options that seniors need to include in their diet?
Sure. Yeah. So definitely bone health is a really big topic for the elderly population. They're more prone to getting fractures or broken bones, hip fractures. And so getting enough vitamin D and calcium will definitely help them with maintaining their bone health. The vitamin D that is consumed will help with the calcium absorption. So pairing the two together will also increase their calcium intake. And then additionally, vitamin D has benefits against type 2 diabetes. And then Talli will go later on into, where to find these calcium, vitamin D, but that's really important. Also, B12, the elderly population tends to be more deficient in this vitamin. And so then getting enough of vitamin B12 will help promote brain and nervous system functions. Also getting enough dietary fiber, keeping regular, lowering your risk of heart disease, and then lowering cholesterol too. That's really important. So eating foods high in fiber. And then potassium is a tricky one because you want to get enough potassium in the elderly population. However, there are people who are on dialysis or has kidney problems. They might want to kind of limit their potassium food. So depending on your situation, you might need more potassium or you might need to be restrictive on your potassium intake. And then lastly, getting enough healthy fats in your diet will also help with heart disease and just kind of finding the balance of eating healthy, but also eating the things you like too. Mhm.
So with seniors that have these health conditions, are there resources with their medical provider and their physician that they can reach out to as well? So anything that's like specific, like you mentioned, the potassium.
Yeah, so definitely if they do go to like a dialysis clinic or something, there's usually either a dietitian or someone who's at least well versed in the research of like the nutrients needed. So definitely talking to them if you're unsure of what you need to eat. Going to the Academy website, the eatrightpro.org. They also have good tips there for the elderly population of getting enough nutrients in their diet too. Mhm.
Great, thank you for that. So Talli, we're talking about the different nutrients and all of that. So where can you find some of these? What type of foods are out there that really seniors should sort of look to?
Yeah, so jumping in with the bone health, so calcium. Calcium is going to be in your dairy products. So I always say stick to like your low fat dairy products. So like your yogurts, your cottage cheese, they're going to have some calcium in there. Fortified cereals are great. Those do contain a lot of nutrients that we need, like B12, and we'll get into that later. But fortified cereals, they'll have your calcium. And then dark leafy greens, vegetables. So as like, a nutrition student, I'm always telling people like dark leafy greens like all the time because they are packed with nutrients. So that's definitely a good one for calcium. For vitamin D, the main one is going to be fatty fish. So like a salmon is a great option. Eggs have some vitamin D. What else? Fortified foods, again, like the cereals, those are also going to be high in vitamin D. And then B12, again, fortified cereals. And for B12 too, I personally like nutritional yeast. So this is a deactivated yeast product. It's very high in B vitamins, especially B12. And it kind of has like a cheesy taste to it. So you can put it on some popcorn. I'll even sprinkle it on some eggs instead of using cheese. And that is a wonderful source of B12. And I really like the taste. So that's called nutritional yeast. You can get that at Walmart. I get mine from Trader Joe's. Doesn't matter where you get it. What else? And then you can also find B12 in fish and seafood products. And then fiber. So fibers, of course, is going to be in your whole grains. It's also going to be in your fruits and vegetables and, your beans, things like that, just to keep you regular. Even like pastas, whole grain pastas is a good option for fiber. Potassium is going to be your fruits and vegetables. It's going to be your beans. It's going to be your peas. What else? Let's see. Potassium also is going to be in dairy. So similar to calcium, low-fat dairy products are going to have a good amount of potassium as well. And then lastly, for fats. So healthy fats, there's a very distinct difference between healthy and non-healthy fats. So your healthy fats are going to be avocado, my favorite. Olive oils are good. Nuts are good. So, and the bad fats we want to stay away from are going to be like your butters. It's going to be anything fried we want to stay away from. So if you are going to cook, substituting some olive oil instead of butter, great option. Maybe on some toast instead of butter, we can use hummus. It's another great option. Avocado. So those would be really good sources of fat.
Well, and I think a lot of the challenges with some of these are in the preparation. So, talking about, do you fry something or would you try to do it in a different manner, or like the different options for toast? I think that's anything else like that you would recommend that you've seen out there that people wouldn't normally think of?
I mean, so definitely, baking or searing on a stove with olive oil is going to be better than frying. It's usually easier. Putting something in the oven is usually a lot easier as well. And then when it comes to like, vegetables, people might look at frozen foods and think like, oh, that's less nutritious. But when it actually comes to vegetables, if it's a frozen vegetable in the frozen aisle and, it's not covered in sauce or has salt all over it, just broccoli frozen, like that's the only ingredient, it's actually still a really good nutritious option that you can just pop in the microwave, and it still retains a lot of its nutritious value, even more so than if you were, baking it or steaming it. It actually can retains more of the nutrients. So, and that's obviously super easy if, you have issues like cooking in the kitchen or if you're on a time crunch. So microwaving frozen veggies, that's also a really good option.
Great. Thank you, Talli. So Diana, one of the things we hear about when it comes to nutrition and all that are, there's all these fad diets and different ways to try to achieve some sort of goal in your life. So are there any that you would recommend that that people could follow, or what should people really look for when they're looking at these diets, and how can they impact their nutrition?
So first off, like you said, fad diets are kind of these stylish diets that people try to attain dramatic results from, whether it's weight loss or, just another dramatic, crazy thing. But I wouldn't say there's a fad diet I would recommend for seniors. There is a diet called the DASH diet, which stands for the dietary approaches to stop hypertension. That's kind of a diet that's been recognized to help lower sodium intake and help with your heart health. And then besides that, I did look up the fad diets that are out there, and I found a longevity diet, which I do not recommend whatsoever. As the name sounds, it sounds like it would have a lot of benefits, but actually, if you look into it, it includes fasting and eliminating meats, and then you're also eliminating dairy products and just other things that you'd get your nutrients from. And that's what fad diets do. They kind of try to eliminate a lot of the big items from your diets to kind of promote this weight loss. But as older adults, you really need all the nutrition you can get. So you shouldn't really focus on eliminating anything, but just choosing the healthier option, maybe like the ones that are lower in sodium or the ones that are lower in fat, like Talli was mentioning for dairy products. But just to circle around to a diet I would recommend, definitely the DASH diet. It kind of just reinstates eating your fruits and vegetables, eating your whole grains, the low-fat dairy products, and limiting sodium intake to about 2,300 milligrams a day. That's like a good range for people to, have a goal for when they're eating sodium products.
Well, it sounds like through most of the information y'all all provided is not only is just knowing what you're eating, going to help, but also developing better habits and better choices. So I think that's a key point that underlies all of your answers. So again, thank you for being on the call, and if y'all don't mind sticking around for some questions afterwards. So next is I'd like to turn to Pam, and I've known Pam for many years. She has done some amazing things with our programs here at the City of Mesquite, and just really proud of the programs that we provide for our seniors. I think it's one of the best things that the City of Mesquite does is taking care of their seniors, and so Pam has been a big part of that. So, and one of the things that I think I'm very proud of through the COVID-19 pandemic is how we address the needs of our seniors when we couldn't bring them to our senior centers. So Pam, I know it was a huge challenge for you and your staff this past year. So kind of tell us some of the things that you did to help our seniors and kind of help, with the isolation that they felt.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really nice. It's easy to be good at your job when you love what you do. We're all in these positions where we help people and we get to see people when they're doing well and things are good for them. But during COVID, everything happened so quickly. We just had to really immediately change gears. We're closing the centers. People can't come in and eat lunch together. The lunches that we typically serve are congregate meal. They congregate together. They have to be served in the building, and there's no more building for them. So on a Friday, we made calls to everybody, hundreds of people. We were gathering staff from the rec centers. gathering all of our part-time staff, phones in every room, and calling people just to let them know what the changes that were coming. We were able to give out emergency meals to people on Monday to take with them for Monday. The folks that were in our building on Friday, we have these little box lunches that have like a can of soup or a chili or something like that, and some fruit juices and crackers and things like that in there for them. So we did that for the Monday, and it gave us Monday to make all of our plans and everything lined up. Our meals come from the VNA, where the ladies here are interning. And so the VNA was really, really helpful to us. They do these prepackaged meals already for Meals on Wheels. So they switched gears really, really quickly and helped us to provide those. So immediately we figured out a new plan for meals. How are we going to serve everybody? And so we did some drive-through, and some of our folks don't drive. They come in on a Star Transit. They come and see us in the centers. So we were able to get staff to deliver those to their homes. I mean, super fast, making plans, lining people up. We were just pulling staff from everywhere we could get them. And we have about 9 drivers at one center and just 1 at the other. Every day taking people meals, and then staff who stay there at the building and serve meals. But everything that we do is kind of whole health. It's not just their nutrition. Social isolation was a very real thing. And it happened really quickly. People were afraid they couldn't go to the store. So we made phone calls to everybody starting that first day that we knew we were going to close, and made sure we called everyone every single week, giving them some tips for exercising at home, giving them some places where they could get groceries, talking them through Uber Eats and some of the delivery services and apps that they hadn't used before. We just went through all these different things for them. And we were learning with them, learning how to do these. But we were just really, really fortunate to have all the good staff who jumped in and helped and didn't miss a beat with our seniors.
No, everybody in recreation did an outstanding job over the past year. So y'all should really be proud. So I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that senior centers aren't just a place for seniors to gather to play games, and that there is a benefit to seniors for their health. So can you talk a little bit about kind of the purpose of senior centers in a community? You talked about the social isolation and all of that. So, which doesn't just happen during a pandemic. It can happen to a senior who doesn't have transportation or doesn't have family close by.
Sure. A lot of times when someone first retires, they think it's going to be like vacation. I can't wait until I retire and I'm going to lay around and get things done at home, which is kind of what happened with quarantine. We did that for a minute, and then we decided that wasn't what we wanted to do. When you stay home for too long, your mobility, you're just not as flexible. You're not, even for myself, absolutely. I'm not as flexible. I'm not doing the things I need to be doing, not eating the way I need to be eating. And you don't see your friends. So when someone retires, they leave that job or they have a health issue that causes them to be home. All of those same things happen for them, and they don't bounce back quite as quickly. As we age, some of those things are a little slower to come back. And so we have lots of different activities. We do table games together. We do trips. We have lots of learning activities. So many things we do together, exercising, and just some fitness on their own in the weight rooms.
So we do have issues with seniors that just are that are on limited incomes, or they face financial challenges. So can you kind of go into some of the ways that the City of Mesquite residents can obtain food assistance in hard times?
Absolutely. So the meals that we provide at the senior centers, we get state and federal funding for that. And so anybody over 60, there's no charge. Or someone who's 60 and their spouse may not be 60 yet, they can qualify with their spouse. So anyone over 60 can get that meal for no charge. We do ask for a donation, and some give a donation and some aren't able, and that's okay. We suggest $1 for that donation. We also have some food assistance programs. We have a portable pantry program, our PPP, And we do that in cooperation with the Elks Lodge and the food bank, North Texas Food Bank. And the Elks Lodge volunteers, they bring the boxes and boxes of all this food to us, and we package them all up in tote bags. And anyone that's part of our senior program, so anybody 50 and older, can get this little tote bag that has canned goods, just some shelf-stable things for them once a month. And we're also, because of those same volunteers, we're also able to provide PAN, which is People and Nutrition. It's a federal program. People do have to qualify for that one based on income. So there's some paperwork that they fill out. It's a federally funded program as well. And so there is paperwork for that one, but that's a food commodity program. It has like dried milk and cheese and beans and rice and all kinds of vegetables and canned goods that meet that need as well.
Well, and I think it's really good that we've had some partnerships that have kind of helped us make use of our senior centers. It's a good way to reach people who we may have difficulty in reaching because they can be isolated. So and I know it's been a long year, and and especially I know the staff really enjoys the interaction with our senior attendees. So now that we're kind of seeing some restrictions lifted and things are kind of looking like they're going to be normal here, or somewhat normal, what can you tell us about the senior programs and how we're going to be doing meals for the next as we come out of the pandemic?
Sure. We're definitely in a transition right now. We don't want to miss anyone that's already getting meals with us, but we also want to bring in people who've not been out, people who've not been involved. So right now we're kind of talking with some of our folks who have had a hard year, who've deteriorated maybe, or still not comfortable coming out of their homes, and talking to them about Meals on Wheels and helping them to register. So we do a lot of like recommendations to people and helping them with things on the computer, things that may be a little tougher, giving them resources for phone numbers and who to contact and where to find help. So we are kind of connecting some of our folks with Meals on Wheels. We're hopeful that we'll be able to open our doors in a way that everybody can sit across the table together again, just spend some time catching up with their friends and seeing other smiling faces, being able to give hugs again, and just spending time with everyone. So we're in the middle of that transition now. We are still doing the home delivered meals and the drive-through meals, but we're really hopeful that soon, in the next couple months, that we'll be able to put that back in our building. So those who can't do it will be able to maybe get on Meals on Wheels and have those meals still delivered to them. And again, the whole health, when they're in our building, we can do all kinds of things with them. And now we have the fitness rooms open. We're doing bingo where there's just one person per table, so we can keep everyone still a safe distance. We have pickleball players that come into the buildings, and they, everybody faces the same direction. So it's kind of a safer, they're not across from each other playing games. And so we do everything from 50 years old and older. And especially now, people working from home and being here during the daytime, some of those younger adults are coming in as well.
And just to put in a quick plug, how much does it cost to be involved in our senior programs?
Okay, that's the best part. So in order to come to the center, you just have to be 50 years old. There's not a fee to be a member. There's not really even a residency restriction. We have people from all over near our area. And we do ask that if someone needs a little extra care, they're not able to do their own self-care, someone comes with them. We aren't equipped to do like adult daycare, things like that. This is a recreation center. And we're just really fortunate to see people when they're in a good place in life. They're just looking for a little extra activity, a little extra communication or exercise or whatever that may be. There is sometimes a little cost for activities, supply fees for crafts. When we go on a trip, they pay for their own tickets to the Arboretum or wherever it is that we go. But our city council has been really, really wonderful to make sure that we have a budget that we can include a lot of those costs and staff costs and building costs. into what we do for our seniors. They've made our seniors a priority.
And those without transportation can utilize Star Transit to get to our senior centers?
Absolutely. Anyone within the city of Mesquite, a Mesquite resident, there's no charge to go from your home to and from the senior programs. And we do assist with signing up for that as well. You can do it online, by phone at Star, or any of the senior centers will help register for that.
Well, great. Well, Pam, thank you. You do a fantastic job, and we're really proud of what y'all done this past year. So
thank you. We have really great staff.
So we do have a couple of questions in the chat, and this is an opportunity for anybody attending to participate and ask questions of our participants. So if you'll please use the raise your hand feature or type a question into the chat. So first question is, I guess for Lark. So my 11-year-old wants to put cheese on some vegetables. Should we allow that so he eats them, or should we avoid doing that to vegetables? Is there any advice that you can give to a parent?
So this is really not that uncommon, especially at this age group. This is the age where kids still can taste those bitter flavors, especially in vegetables. So you'll see, even at school, we offer broccoli and cheese, not just broccoli. So it's okay. It's more important to remember portions. So just kind of like, you don't want to have coffee in your cream. You want to have cream in your coffee. We want to make sure that we're having vegetables with some cheese on it, and we're not having cheese with a couple of vegetables. But some other tips might be, especially with broccoli or green vegetables, because I know a lot of kiddos have aversions to green vegetables, is to actually try just a little bit of butter and lemon over the top, and maybe just a little sprinkle of salt, and you can kind of mitigate some of those bitter flavors. So if you're worried about the cheese, there are other opportunities that you can still take advantage of by just altering the flavor just a little bit to get over those bitter flavors. But it's much better for the kiddo to eat the vegetables, even if there's a little cheese, than to create an environment where we're thinking that all vegetables are bad.
And I think this would be a question for any of our nutritionists. So, and this is my question, just so with the pandemic, it was, having the opportunity to go to a restaurant and take something home seemed to becoming more of a fad. I think people found the challenge of being at home difficult, so they would choose to go out. So, are there, again, anything served through a window may not be good for you. So are there some choices? So when you are going to a restaurant or a fast food place, that you would kind of try to direct people, what part of the menu would you direct people to?
I can speak on this. I actually work part-time at a restaurant when I'm not on my internship. So I have seen an uptake an increase in to-go orders, obviously for like the safety of others. What I would recommend when you're eating out is you can still follow the My Plate rule. Make half of your plate vegetables, the other your protein, and then your whole grain. So getting like a side salad with like a protein option, or like adding some, if you're getting pasta, maybe try to find a pasta that has like veggies on it as well. So you don't have to completely like avoid restaurants, especially during this time, but just choosing the healthier options on the menu. Like, don't get something that's fried when there's something that's baked on there, So just like making those little small changes, you can still eat out and enjoy, food that's not cooked from your home.
Well, we'll remind anybody attending, if you want to ask questions, use the raise your hand feature, or type something into the chat. So I think one of the challenges as a parent, and I had with 3 kids in the house, we were always trying to find something that they all liked, and we had again a lot of picky eaters and all of that. So any ideas on some menu items that kind of would appeal to a broad range of taste, or do you try to direct individual preparation for each child's taste?
So it can be challenging if you have multiple picky eaters in your household, especially if some of them are adults. But one really important thing is to not become a sous chef for each individual member of the family, because then you're actually encouraging bad habits. And so maybe if your child only wants to eat chicken nuggets every night, and you accommodate that, then that actually perpetuates the habit. So it's important to maybe talk about what's going to be for dinner before, maybe even that morning, to try to get that palate kind of in your head, and start thinking about, what are the things that everybody likes. So maybe try to choose one thing on the menu that everybody can enjoy together, and maybe have a few different things. So kind of like what Diana was saying about the My Plate, we can focus on maybe having a variety of fruits and vegetables to choose from, but then to cover half of your plate, but then maybe just focus on one entree item and one grain item for the rest of the family.
So I think I don't see any other questions. So I've just got one more and Talli, maybe you want to try to take a chance at this one. So you're preparing ribs, or you're going to a restaurant, you're having something like ribs or brisket or barbecue. Are there things that in any meals that you're kind of finding that are hidden in there that you need to watch out for? I know there, sauces, spices, that sort of thing. Are there, can you give us any tips on finding those hidden dangers or dangers, but things that are not good for you?
Yeah. So like you mentioned, usually with things like ribs, it's the sauce that's really going to put you over on, sugar or any sodium. So what I would do in these instances is you can order things dry. And a lot of people, I think, in restaurants, they're scared to be like, tell the waiter, like, hey, I want dressing on the side. I want this. I want this. I want this instead. But like, I am totally that person. I do that every time. And I can tell you, like, waiters, they don't care. It's their job. So you can definitely say, like, I just want it dry, no sauce. And you can say sauce on the side, right? Because everything in moderation, you're still allowed to have food that tastes good. So maybe some sauce on the side, and you can kind of lightly rub it on there a little bit or dip it, because I promise you, going about your ribs that way, you're going to have way less of the consumption of the sauce, as if the whole thing was just like drowning in it. So that would be my big tip, is ordering it dry. Same with like salads, things like that, ordering the dressing on the side. You're probably going to use less than if, the chef, whoever preparing it, just piled that dressing on. So ordering it on the side would probably be my biggest tip for that.
Well, and I lied. I did have one more question. So just as nutrition experts and all of that, so is it okay to have a Whataburger every once in a while?
Yes.
All right. I've got professional approval, so thank you. So, well, once again, everyone, I really appreciate your time tonight for being on this call. It's a very important topic. There's a lot of people that probably their mind's elsewhere, and they tend to forget about their nutrition. So having these tips, especially with families, taking care of your senior parents and even yourself, is very important. So again, the city of Mesquite is very, very proud of our partnerships with the VNA, with MISD, and our senior programs. So we thank you for what you do for the community, and thank you for giving a little bit of your time to the community tonight. So, and with that, we'll begin to close our program. I do want to mention that we are trying to do these monthly, and if you have some topics, we'd love to hear from you what your suggestions are. We'd like to make sure we're addressing the things that people want to hear. And one of the big things that's going on, and it's a national topic, is mental health. And so next month, April 8th, we will have our next program, which will focus on mental health and and how that impacts different parts of our community, different ethnic groups, different age groups, and all of that. It's something that I think underlies a lot of the problems people have in their lives. So we hope you can join us for that. And again, thank you everyone for participating, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.